Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, a very interesting game that I'm going to be talking about today. Hi everybody, it's me, Mike, aka Muko33, and well, I want to do this because this is a very interesting topic, let's just say, to get into. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about Dissidia Final Fantasy NT. Is it really as bad as people say? Like, is it really that bad? Well, let's find out. So the game came out in 2018, as you guys may or may not know. It came out on the 11th of January in Japan, and it came out on the 30th of January for PS4, and it actually came out on PC as well, approximately a few days ago when this is being recorded, funnily enough, on the 12th of March. But the thing is when the game came out on the PS4, which is really the main target of this, it was kind of interesting because some say it was fine, some say it was awful, but reviewers, and that's like a main thing which, some look at before buying games and whatnot, reviewers said that it was average, not horrible, but just super average, and it wasn't as good as the Dissidia games on the PSP, like the original or Duodecim, which I personally liked, by the way. I really enjoyed that one. It's funny that I mentioned Duodecim, actually, because I know a lot of people really like Duodecim. It was basically an upgrade on the original Dissidia, but the thing is it was so good that people really liked it, kind of thing, And reviewers also did like it a lot, so that's why it's very strange that this one all of a sudden gets, a lot of, maybe not a lot, but definitely some negativity about it and whatnot. I mean, if you look at the scores that reviewers have given, like the main ones, the big players, let's just say, they gave NT like lower-ish medium scores, of course, as I mentioned earlier, and then they gave Duodecim some really high scores and whatnot. And it just beckons again the question of, is NT really that bad, kind of thing? And well, let's delve into it finally, because I know I've been wanting to mention a lot of things about this game. So without further ado, everybody, why don't we get right into it? Because I have many opinions to share, which may or may not be controversial. So here we go, let's just say. To start off with, the game looks, well, graphically, the game looks beautiful. I gotta be completely honest here. I mean, yeah, we're in the age of, the PS4 and all that fun stuff, and yeah, and like graphics have been much better over the past, maybe I'd say like 5 or 6 years, but really, for a Final Fantasy game, the graphics look absolutely beautiful. All the character models look pretty nice. They all, look cool, and, that's one big thing that I think everybody can agree on, is the graphics look pretty good, for the most part, I would say. Even some simple stuff, like the lighting and the effects and whatnot, and the weather and all that sort of fun stuff, that part is good and whatnot. And that was actually a major upgrade from the previous games, by the way, like the previous Dissidia games. So, once again, another thing which, this game does better than the other, which is, oh yeah, the graphics. I mean, everybody likes to rave about graphics, and I can understand that, but graphics are a really big deal. If the game looks beautiful, people are gonna buy it, obviously, So there you go. I mean, that's one big positive right there. Oh yeah, by the way, before anybody mentions it, yes, I do understand that the previous Dissidia games were obviously on the PSP. It's just the kind of thing which, well, everyone kind of noticed it, so, I kind of have to mention it, so yeah, there you go. The biggest change, however, is actually the gameplay, the combat, and how that works and whatnot, because this time, there have been a lot of changes, and some for the better and some which are maybe not so good. So that's another big thing which, well, a lot of people had words to talk about, and I do too. Why don't we start off with something good first? The combat, of course, as I mentioned, is a big change where now you can do 3v3 instead of 1v1 or whatever, how it was before. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal because now you can play with friends, for example, online. You can also play offline with the bots and whatnot. So again, it just beckons the question of, it looks good. Like, it looks amazing, actually. Like, the multiplayer as well is another thing, which again, I'll get to in later on. But it's another thing where it's like, hey, this is we have all these cool features here, including the 3v3 concept, which, sounds amazing. So again, like, it looks really good and whatnot. Even the story mode is okay, actually. Like, I haven't beaten it personally, but even that is alright. It's actually probably more unique than the other ones because there's a special menu that you get to access, whereas the other ones, it was, if I remember correctly, that weird, like, drop-down board game mechanic, which, I mean, was kind of funny, but when you look back at that, it's like, oh, really? Like, this menu is way better and whatnot, at least in my opinion, anyway. So, again, you have all these cool features, you have new concepts, and all these other, like, things which are making the game look pretty good and everything else looking all right. But let's get into really where the game doesn't necessarily like fall flat, but definitely raises a few question marks and all that sort of stuff, and why the game is not as good as the previous Dissidia game. Oh, I did want to note that before we continue this, actually, I just wanted to say that that Lightning is great, and y'all should know that, and she is the best. But anyway, now let's actually get into it. So a big thing that people definitely did not like is actually something that I mentioned earlier, which is the 3-on-3 combat thing. And even though the concept's great, there are a few problems with the combat. And really, again, it's the combat which takes it probably for most people. Although there is one other thing which I do want to talk about. So, you know, there is that. But let's start off with the combat. So the combat system is great. However, there are definitely some problems. As you guys have maybe noticed, those of you that have already played the game, you definitely know this. If you haven't played the game, I'll just let you know this now, that there is no leveling up system. In the original Dissidia games, mainly the first one and Duodecim, well, really both of them, there was the level up system where your characters were constantly leveling up and getting more experience and getting new items to equip and overall just becoming stronger. And the weird thing is that obviously that's been taken out, and that is a big problem because that loses that sense of like, oh, I got to keep playing the game so I can get the highest level. And even when you do get the highest level, which is 100 in the previous games, the highest level doesn't actually mean you're invincible, believe it or not. You still have to get the best equipment, and even getting the best equipment, that takes a very long time and whatnot. It's that sense of like exploration and sense of like, you know, I want to get stronger, but there's multiple ways of doing it, but in order to do that, you have to get to a certain level first, and then you can get stronger. But then, of course, there's that weird ability, I forgot what it's even called, like Lie Strike or something like that, where you could just, like, basically break the game. But most people probably don't even know how to get it, and I never got that personally, so that's the other thing, too. But, yeah, the combat, not having a level-up system is definitely a big, big deal. So that was one thing that I know for a fact a lot of people did not like, and me personally, yeah, not having a level up system, that kind of does suck in my opinion, you know? Another feature that got changed also is actually in the combat itself, where every character, and this unfortunately cannot get changed unless if there's like some secret way, which I am not aware of, which I mean, you know what, anything's possible. But another thing that's also been changed is the simple fact that every character, whenever you do a match, except for the story mode, because I think the story mode has some special fights or whatever, but basically in any normal match, every character has 3,500 health, and you start off with 1,000 bravery. The 1,000 bravery is basically like the normal thing, like it's the norm. I mean, that's fine, like it was there in the original game, so like, you know, that can't really complain about at all. But the thing is the bravery and the health, the correlation between that has to be pretty important kind of thing. And, well, as you can see, with only having 3,500 health, and if you raise your bravery enough, you can, like, annihilate, like, the other team pretty easily, which is actually kind of disappointing. I mean, whenever I did, personally, like, if I remember correctly, whenever I had the, you know, 1v1 matches back in the older Dissidia games, and the opponents would have over, like, 9,999 health, but I would start off with really high bravery or something, it would take build-up. The matches take longer almost. Like, it's kind of weird to describe, but for me, I really think that that also is a thing that is disappointing. I know some people didn't like that as well because it was a big staple thing with having large amount of health and slowly chopping them down, or getting so much bravery and hitting them down in 1 HP attack kind of thing. So that's another big thing that some people didn't like about the combat. And me personally, yeah, it's a big adjustment kind of thing. To be honest, I could go on more and more about combat stuff, but really it is definitely the combat and the gameplay which has had the biggest changes. I mean, the story mode is really not really like a big deal, and I mean, to be fair, the game modes are actually better. I would say the online is definitely, like, the online's actually a thing now, so that's pretty cool. But again, it is understandable that so many did not like the combat changes and whatnot. Oh, by the way, not being able to have equipment, yeah, that's kind of annoying. Like, no equipment being a thing now is also pretty annoying, because I mentioned the level up stuff earlier. But I don't know. No equipment is pretty tough also to getting used to. However, I would like to mention that the DLC characters and the new characters that are in the game are pretty cool. I mean, for goodness sake, they have somebody from Type 0. Like, I didn't even think Type 0 would even get a cameo or even, like, a shot at this kind of game. But that's pretty amazing that something completely different is actually in this game. So, I mean, there are positives and there are negatives and whatnot. So, I guess we might as well just answer the big question, which is basically the question of the video. Is Dissidia NT as bad? Is it really that bad? In my opinion, no. It definitely does have its issues. It definitely, you know, does have some big mechanical changes, which are not that great. But overall, I still think this is a very, very good game that I think everybody should just, like, give it a try. And, I mean, hey, you get to play with friends because online is a thing. So, yeah, I think that alone should be a good enough reason to try out the game and whatnot. So, yeah, there you go. In my opinion, it's not as bad as some would say. Oh, hey, look, it's the end of the video segment. Yeah, this is something which I forgot to mention in the intro video, actually. But yeah, this is the thing also that I'm going to be doing is the end of video segments where I talk about, like, funny behind-the-scenes stuff and whatnot, or giving, like, you know, some funny, like, stuff and whatnot. Thing is I may have been doing this video with a very bad headache, so that's why I was stumbling on my words. And not to worry, though, just insert the It's Fine meme and it'll be okay. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you like the video, please give the channel a subscribe, hit the subscribe button and whatnot. Like the video. If you want to see more content and whatnot like this, because that's what I plan on doing, then yeah, it goes a long way and whatnot. And follow them socials on screen. And I'll see you guys in the next video where, well, it's it's going to be a very interesting next video because it's, again, just like with Dissidia NT, it's going to be a game which I've been wanting to talk about for a long time in proper detail. See you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.